Sometime when I was a brahmachari in Laguna Beach, there was one devotee named Bayahari, and if anyone knows Bayahari, he's a very, very humorous, very funny devotee. And one day I was in the temple room, and Bayahari comes from around the corner, and he comes up to me very randomly, and he said something to me. He's always had a kind of mischievous mode to him. And he said something to me, and then he stuck his hand out as if I was to shake his hand. And so I put my hand to his hand to shake his hand. And as soon as I did that, he went, "Arrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr funny bone. I just started laughing hilariously. I thought it was very, very funny. And from that day on, actually, I incorporated it in my, as kind of an icebreaker to break down people's false egos and their defenses, because a lot of times people are, what do you want? What are you doing? But when I'd stick my hand to shake their, I would interject at some point and shake their hand, and I'd go, it was, to me, it was kind of like a buzzer effect. Like if we had a little joke, you buy them in the joke shops, there was a buzzer, and you'd reach out to shake your friend's hand, and it was like, whoa, you know. And somehow it just kind of made people, like, at that point, just defenseless in terms of all their objections to what I was going to say. They could tell, this guy's not an ordinary guy. He's like, who are you, that you could do that to me, you know, kind of thing. So anyway, sometime later, I was doing Sankirtan in Beverly Hills. I approached these two middle-aged, attractive-looking housewives, and they were from the South. And I said, I gave my little comic approach to them, and they said to me, why, yes. They go, we can give you a donation. They go, but could you do us a favor? And I said, sure. They said, well, they said, you see that restaurant over yonder? And I looked over, and there was this restaurant. It was called the Swiss Chalet. It's no longer there, by the way. And they said, well, Marlon Brando's in there eating his lunch, and we was wondering, we wanted to take his picture, and we was wondering if you could see if he's almost finished with his lunch, so that we could take his picture. And I looked at him, I said, wait a second. I go, Marlon Brando's in that restaurant? And they go, why, yes. I said, wait right here. And then I ran down the street. I opened the trunk of my car, and I pulled out a hardbound Bhagavad Gita, a Coming Back, a Higher Taste, and a Who Are They magazine. And I ran back over there. And that day, I don't know why, but I probably was a little more in the bodily concept of life than usual. And, you know, when you mention a name like Marlon Brando, on a material level, he's a great icon. He's considered one of the greatest actors of all time, innovative in his craft. So my heart was racing, you know. I was like, what am I going to do? You know, what am I going to say, you know? And so I remembered that if one remembers Lord Chaitanya, even the most difficult thing becomes very easy. And if one forgets Lord Chaitanya, then even the most easy thing will become very difficult. So I prayed to Lord Chaitanya very quickly in my mind that, Lord Chaitanya, please give me intelligence, what to do in this situation. What should I say? How should I approach this? And I was praying like this as I walked through the restaurant doors. And when I got inside that restaurant, to me, because it was a Swiss restaurant, but it was almost like an Italian kind of atmosphere in the sense that there were, you know, every table was lit by candlelight. And there was no other form of light in that restaurant that I remember. It was very dark. And there were no staff out. There was no, you know, maitre d'. There was no hostess, no waitresses or waiters. It was just me at the front of that doorway. And I looked all the way down this 50-foot aisle. And I see in this big booth seat, I see this large man with his Tahitian wife and daughter. And sure enough, Marlon Brando. So at this point, I still didn't know how I was going to approach this. You know, it can be awkward when you go into an establishment like that. They're not so, they don't take too kindly to people coming in and bothering their employees, I'm sorry, patrons, what to speak of a movie star, So I just was trying to think what to do, and I had an idea. And I thought, I just have to go for it. I have to go with this. So I glanced down the aisle and I said, Marlon! Marlon! And he looked up and he smiled, and I go, Marlon! And I'm starting to walk down the aisle. I said, it's been a long time. I go, how are you? And he's like shaking, he's smiling, he still doesn't know what's up. And then finally I get to him and I stick my hand out and I say, how are you? I said, it's been a long time. And I'm shaking his hand and he's shaking my hand. He's looking up at me and he's smiling. And, right about that point, I just kind of yanked him forward and I leaned down and my lips were near his ear, and I said, actually, I said, we never met, like this. And then I went, Arr! And he just started laughing. His wife and daughter started laughing also hysterically. And at that moment, I felt to be in some type of bubble or vortex. I mean, all his defenses were down. I just felt that I was like part of their family. And I almost felt like I was supposed to sit down with them at that point. But then something came over me where I decided that no, I should continue on with the reason I had originally come in there, which was to give him a book. And so I became a little serious, and I said, actually, I showed my ID badge. I said, actually, I'm with ISKCON. I said, and I would like to present a gift to you on behalf of our organization. And so I pulled out a hardbound Bhagavad Gita, and I handed it to him. And, while I was in there, I was just thinking how much, like, the atmosphere was almost like the movie The Godfather. It was very dark, and he, because he played the Godfather, Don Corleone, his demeanor was very much like in that how he was in that movie, because I said to him, I said, as I put the book in his hand, he looked at it. I said, of course, I said, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get the sequence right here. So I handed him the book. He looks at the book, and he pauses, and then he looks back up at me, and he says, I got it. I took it to mean when he said that, my real understanding was, clear understanding was that he already had that book, that somebody had given him that book. And so I said, really? I said, what did you think of it? And he said, and he paused again, and he looked at the book again, and then he looked back up at me and he said, I liked it. Like this. He's in this kind of Godfather mode, and I'm like this hyper, cartoonish personality. And I said, really? I said, well, I said, here. I pulled out the Higher Taste cookbook. I said, here's a vegetarian gourmet karma-free cookbook. I said, your little Tahitian wife and daughter can whip you up some good dishes. And they started laughing, and he was laughing. And the whole thing was just very positive, and the energy was good. There was no awkwardness. It was just, I felt that it was all a great success because he took all my books. And I never did follow up, I think, to tell them that maybe I went out and told them that he's still eating. I don't know what the end result of all of that was in regards to them, but I know that he got those books, and they all had a nice taste, a nice experience with me. And I just felt like it's another pastime of Mahaprabhu, Lord Chaitanya, that, and I enjoy giving books to stars because, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yad yad acharati shreshtas tad tad eva charojuna. What's that verse that I don't know if I remember the whole Sanskrit, but whatever a great person does, Krishna says, common men follow in his footsteps, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So, I'm glad to get the books in the hands of these so-called great personalities of this world because if they take to Krishna consciousness in any way at all or embrace it in any form, certainly they'll have an effect on all their admiring fans that it will transfer over, and I think it's a wonderful thing. So that's my Marlon Brando story. Thank you.